Ancient technology. Comments. So something I see a lot and hear a lot is always annoying is the idea that the Great Pyramids are perfect. Now, Great Pyramid or the pyramids in general, they're cool, right? Especially when they were in their original finished final form, right? Super cool, super beautiful. However, they're currently not in that condition. So what you see is before they get finished, right? What they look like before you make them, pretty with the white limestone casing stones, right? For the Great Pyramid specifically. So the stones won't look that great. As you can see in this image, here's what some of the blocks look like. Most of it's eroded, but most of them are still in their original size and shape and whatnot. The main thing I wanted to point out was a lot of people like to talk about how perfect the pyramid is and all the blocks and stuff like that. Yeah, that's not what the pictures of the Great Pyramid show. I don't see perfection here. I see very, very much imperfection. Like I see stuff that has holes in it and stuff like that. It's almost like they just took a whole bunch of random blocks that they found and just put it together and made the pyramid. Like, look, they're all different shapes. Now they are of a block-like shape, yeah, because you want to stack them, but they're not really perfect. They're very oddly shaped, very inconsistent. Like look how some of them are square, some of them are rectangles, some of them are rectangles that are standing upright instead of sideways, and then there's a whole bunch of like small rocks in between. Like if you look really close at this one right here, look at it. There's two pieces of rock in between this big square block and this big rectangle block, and there's two small little rectangle blocks in between. So very imperfect, very unpretty. Here's what it looks like when you have somebody next to it. Here's like some casing stone. You see how the slant is there, and that looks pretty compared to what's behind it. What's behind it is not as pretty. It's not as refined, as cut, as mint condition as that casing stone. That casing stone is way higher quality than what's behind it. So just wanting to point out this, like the Great Pyramid is not built perfectly. Look at all these random ass shapes. They just try to fit whatever they can. Look how that random grayish rectangle in the middle. That's probably not even part of the original design. That's probably like concrete, like modern renovation or something, just so the pyramid doesn't fall apart. But you get the idea that none of this stuff here is perfect. But besides that, the fact that they're not all the same shape, they're not all perfect. See, look how jagged it is, so imperfect. Not polished or squared off like you would like to think. Look how random a whole bunch of them are. Even right there, look at that L-shaped block. Why is there an L-shaped block among all these blocks? Why isn't this perfect? Why isn't every block the same shape, the same size? Why is there random? More likely because a lot of these blocks were just imported from different locations. The whole point was just to fill up the shape, the basic shape of the pyramid, and then afterwards use some high quality blocks to cover all that imperfection and then make it pretty, because it really didn't have to be pretty all the way through the construction. And just like I showed how there's some very, very little blocks and then there's some really big blocks. And this is just the outer surface. You can't even see the blocks that are in the structure. I believe there's tons and tons of like really giant blocks, like really big. There's probably like blocks, they're like the size of your house in the Great Pyramid. Just boom, here's a big block. We pushed it, we moved it here, and now we use this, and we're gonna build around this and build the Great Pyramid using this block and this other block. There's probably like 4 or 5, 6, maybe 8 giant house-sized blocks, like 3 floors, 4 floors, 5 floor building blocks in there, you know. And that's just a theory, because it'll be hard to confirm it at the moment unless we get some technology that can see every block inside the Great Pyramid. But I wouldn't be surprised at all. There's giant, big-ass blocks in the Great Pyramid. Not only that, a lot of empty space where there's a whole bunch of blocks that make like a frame and then fill with a whole bunch of stuff. Basically, a whole bunch of boxes, a whole bunch of big blocks making chambers, basically, right? But then they fill the chambers with a whole bunch of broken rocks just to make it solid, just to make sure it's filled so it doesn't collapse. And the pyramid is full of these chambers, these rubble chambers, whatever you want to call them. And that's the whole point. They put a whole bunch of stuff in these chambers to fill them up. And there's proof of that. I saw a video of somebody who was showing that, like, look, this is how they build it. They put all the nice stuff, rocks here, and then behind it they just threw a whole bunch of rocks, a whole bunch of trash, right? They call it rubble. A whole bunch of rocks in the back of it, and then they covered it with nice rocks, mortared it, you know, to glue it all together to make it nice and solid, and there you go. That's how they build it. So it was really easy to build the Great Pyramid, and in a short period of time, because you weren't perfectly building it. So this idea of, oh, the Great Pyramid is perfectly made, every stone is the same size and weight, it's like, no, it's not. It's almost like people don't know how to use Google. I'm showing you literally right now with pictures of how imperfect and how many random shapes there are in the Great Pyramid. Look at these blocks right there. Different shapes, so imperfect, not pretty at all. Hey, I'm a big fan of the Great Pyramid, don't get me wrong. I'm not a Great Pyramid hater, but Jesus Christ, let's not lie. Let's not lie about the Great Pyramid. Like, it's not glaze the Great Pyramid as if it's perfect. It's not perfect. It's just really cool. Like, look how big that is. But even from this image right here, from far away, it's like, yeah, it's not perfect. The shape looks really nice, but realistically, it's very imperfect. But from a far distance, it's a beautiful sight, nonetheless. Right? So I get it. It is beautiful. I'm a fan, but realistically, like, see, this right here is proof of that. Look, like, this is how it would look like if it's finished, which is amazing, and I'm a big fan. But then this is reality. So reality versus what it used to be, right? How it used to be versus now, the past versus now. This looks cool. Looks like a nice image. Look at that nice ancient image, where the pyramid looks much better. Looks almost complete, but we can tell it's, you know, without the casing stones. So just wanted to point that out. Like, most people don't know. That's why some people argue, like, it would take hundreds of thousands of years to build the Great Pyramid. And it's like, no, it wouldn't. It would take like 20 weeks, 20 months at most, if, you know, depending on the, you know, the criterias and the time spent on it, you know, like how much manpower you have. But realistically, it doesn't take that long, considering the fact that a lot of the construction, a lot of the materials, a lot of the shapes of the blocks are not consistently the same size and shape. So you can move 2, 3, 5, 12, 20 blocks at a time to build the Great Pyramid. You can use big blocks. Just move one big block, put it in the Great Pyramid there. That takes up the space that, let's say, 200 blocks smaller blocks would have taken. Instead of using 200 small blocks and moving them and stacking them, just take one big giant block and just put it there, and boom, there. Now it takes up 200 blocks worth of space. It's just common sense. Like imagine you're making something out of Legos. Why use a whole bunch of small little Legos that have 4 points on it, when you can use the bigger Legos, the ones that have like 16 points? So get the big long Legos and you can build something big faster because you're using the longer Lego pieces instead of the small itty bitty four corner, you know, the little square ones. I got Legos, so I know what I'm talking about. A lot of times when I want to build something fast, I use the bigger Legos. I don't use the small ones. I use the small ones for like small details, but when I want to build something, I use the bigger Legos because it's faster. It takes less time to build something big when you're using the bigger Lego pieces. So the Great Pyramid is the same thing. You use big giant blocks and you'll build the pyramid way faster than if you use a whole bunch of small, same size blocks. Just saying.